welcome back to the Life and Listings podcast. Today, we have a couple special guests. We have the Hurleys joining us. Hey, guys.
Hi.
So anybody that's listening in that hasn't met the two of you yet, which if you are at any type of conference and you have the pleasure of going to dinner with them, you should. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, about your family, all those good things.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I'm Tarasa Hurley. I am a co-owner, partner of a real estate brokerage, Riverpoint Realty. I'm a team lead, a high-producing agent, and I have 3 awesome kids. I'm a mom, obviously, since I have the kids. I'm a wife to this guy, and lots of different hats on my head, really.
I wear some hats too. I need to because I'm bald. I am a full-time software engineer at Google, senior software engineer. I work there for 10 years now, actually coming up on 11 probably in July. And that's my major full-time gig. But my second full-time gig is I work with Tarasa on her team. I do a lot of development for her. I do advertising. I do SEO. I actually do a lot of automation and process development for our team as well. And together we bring a lot of different things to the table, which actually mesh pretty awesome.
Where do you find all the time to do all of that stuff?
A lot of people ask us this question. We don't sleep a lot. We probably should, but we don't. We usually work until about 11 or 12 at night. We take a break after the normal, typical work day. We'll take a break and spend time with the kids, and then we'll go back to work after the kids go to bed. We do that now as a thought that in the future, it will get better as we're growing more of our business and our systems and everything. Hopefully, at some point, we'll get to sleep.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it has gotten better.
It has gotten better.
So there was a time where Tarasa was gone all the time, where she was working all the time. We have weekends pretty much now.
It's better.
And someday, we're going to have the weekdays too. So all of the sacrifice has an eventual end goal. But there is a lot of sacrifice whenever you're building a business, you're trying to do something big, and being able to accept that sacrifice, work within its bounds is important.
It's for the greater good. And when you have a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, your business is like a baby, especially when it's first starting, and the baby just needs so much time. But then you start to grow and the baby starts to grow, your business starts to grow, and you can leave it for a little bit more time at a time. The hours we're putting in now, the weeks and weekends and long nights, it's building something incredible, which I think we're both really excited about.
I love that. And I love that you are supporting each other, right? Because that's really hard to do when you've got this business and then you've maybe got a wife that's gone on the weekends and you're working on stuff at night. And then, Brian, you have a full-time job. I love how you're supporting each other and working on it together. And I love that you found ways that you can support the business and be super involved in it, because that can be really tough on a lot of like brand new realtors that have just started their business, or you just started a brokerage. Was that tough in the beginning, or did it just come naturally for both of you?
I think as things go, you develop a certain level of stress that you can handle. And then as you get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, you can handle more. So I think now I can handle a lot bigger problems and things don't hit me as hard as when they did when I was first starting the business 4 years ago. So I think that's growth on my part, and I think growth on our part.
It definitely has been. I mean, if you look at it, there's a lot of times where we were pretty afraid or things seem really scary. And then 100 or 200 transactions later, you're like, well, I've seen that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I've seen this other thing 5 times. It just isn't that stressful anymore. It's just not that big of a deal anymore. And so what you find is as you develop these skills, as you get better at this, as you've seen more things, that what would normally have crushed you doesn't even make you flinch. It's like no big deal anymore. And I think that that's the process, that as you grow, you just figure out what things aren't going to kill you and you can get through it.
Yeah. You're like, this is just business, or this is just how things happen. You don't take it as personally, probably. I think that's a lot where I get like hung up. I take things personally. Agent leaves, client leaves, whatever happens, transaction falls through. I'm like, oh, it's me personally. But really, it's just the business you're growing.
And you wouldn't get to those levels. You wouldn't have those. If you didn't take the risk, then you wouldn't have those fall throughs. The thing is, those are important. It's important to fail. It's important to reach too far and slip. And that's okay, because that's where your growth comes in.
Well, tell us a little bit about your real estate growth, right? Because you started out as an individual agent, you had a team, you recently started a brokerage. Tell us, what kind of led you down that path?
What led me down that path is I found out I got to a place in my business that I could not personally grow fast enough because I was not able to bring people to the brokerage as quickly as I could bring them to my team because I had to get them hired at the brokerage first because it wasn't my brokerage. And I'd gotten to the point where I had grown a little too big for my britches and I needed more control at a brokerage level to be able to grow at the speed I needed.
Interesting. I mean, that's a good problem to have, right? And then what made you start a team initially?
Kind of the same thing is one of our superpowers, I guess, is we created systems that produce a lot of leads, hundreds of leads per month. And I could not handle all the leads that we were able to produce per month. And so I needed to find awesome agents to join my team to be able to supply them with these leads because I could not work them all by myself. I was trying, but when I was getting like 18 under contract at a time by myself, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I wasn't home, and that wasn't the life I really wanted. I love my job, but I also love my children and would like to see them at some point.
We hope so. I want to be home a little bit. So you started with too many leads, and then you're going, I've got maybe too many agents coming on where I don't have the control of what I'm onboarding them or whatever. And now you have your own brokerage. Tell us a little bit about how that's going because that's fairly fresh and new.
So that was really awesome. We ended up merging with a brokerage called Riverpoint Realty. There were two partners over there, and we were talking for probably over a year to make sure that we would be a good fit for each other. And then we decided that yes, we could make this work. We were in line. Everybody brought something different to the table, which was incredible. I've always said if you want to go fast, go by yourself. Because then you only have you and your decisions and your hard work. But if you want to go far, go with partners. And I am very happy that I picked to go with some amazing partners. In September, we officially merged. That gave me the opportunity to have this amazing lead system that we've created and pass it out to the entire brokerage instead of just my team. Because even as my team was growing, it was not growing fast enough. I had too many leads still for my agents. So now that I have a brokerage, I can pass out more leads to the entire brokerage, our internet's leads team, and I can get to more people faster. We can get our clients serviced faster. It's a better experience for everyone. And I'm helping grow agents in their businesses too, which is also very important to me. I want not only my business to thrive, but I want my agents who have come to my brokerage that have decided to be part of our family. I want them to be successful too.
I mean, that's awesome. I feel like more often than not, you hear about brokerages, they're all about a number game. I'm just going to bring in a whole bunch of agents. I'm going to make money off of them, but I'm not going to actually make sure they succeed, right? Whether you're giving them leads or you're giving them support. Sounds like you're doing a little bit of both. I have a couple questions on that. So it sounds like you had too many leads for a long time. So what type of systems are you setting up when you're an individual agent to now? What are you doing to bring in all those leads and then convert those leads?
So we love using Follow Up Boss. Brian and I are both moderators in the Follow Up Boss community. We're big fans of that product. We also really love Real Scout. That helps with setting up our clients on great searches. Those systems together are just a powerhouse. We absolutely love them. We can follow what all our clients are doing. For our agents, we can set up tasks, we can set up automations. It makes them more successful agents because they know exactly who to work with next. And I think when I started, I only had a database of 30 names, and it was just moms from my mom's club. And actually, none of them ended up buying any houses from me yet. That's okay someday.
There's still there's still
But we started out with 30 names in my database, and we've grown to over 15,000. And it is very important when you have a database that large to have very good systems and procedures and automations to help you be the agent you need to be, because you can't remember that many people and it's very hard to keep track of them. So the systems are very important.
I will probably add to this. I want to go back and zoom all the way back to when you started out. So the original goal that Tarasa told me is that she was going to go back to real estate. She was in new construction years and years ago, back before we had kids. Our kids got a little older, so they were able to be more independent. And she decided during COVID to go back into real estate. And so the goal was sell like 6 houses a year, have coffee with her friends. It was going to be great. The thing is, Tarasa doesn't really do anything halfway. It's all the way. And so When she went in, she didn't know anything about how the systems work in Pennsylvania. We lived in a different state prior to that. And so she got licensed and she was really into learning. Anything that she could learn, she took from her mentors. And all the mentors say the same kind of things. They say, you need to do X, Y, or Z to be successful. And so Tarasa did X, Y, and Z. And she needed to find her niche. She needed to figure out how she could get business, how it would work. So she tried just about everything that existed. There was a time where she was calling expired. She called like 1,000 people until she got her first listing. And she tried all these different things and it worked, but it was slow going. So her first year, first couple of months, she got a couple sales, working very, very hard. And then probably in the springtime, I said, look, we need a more consistent way to generate new business. Our database isn't that big. We need to grow it. The bigger our database, the more people we have to sell to. I wanted to start running ads. But I'm similar to Tarasa. I don't do anything halfway. So I'm like, you know what? I'm an engineer. I can figure this out. Let's lose some money. So we decided that we were going to put a certain amount of budget into learning how to be awesome at ads. And we figured we were going to lose it all. So I spent my spare time, which was little, but I still spent so much time learning everything that I could learn about Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram ads, everything that I could. I read everything there was. I joined like every community that existed. I consumed information that was just ridiculous level of information. And then I started running things. I think up to that point, it was like almost halfway through the year, he sold about 5 houses. And then from the rest of that halfway point up until the end of the year, I think he sold 31 more.
Yeah.
So it worked, and it worked really well. We didn't lose any money at all. In fact, it was like 25x ROI. It was ridiculous. At that point, we were still kind of running by the seat of our pants. We had gotten a CRM. We were starting to like actually learn how to use it. I was becoming better running ads. I'm probably 100 times better now than I was then. Like I know so much about this. I know so much about this because we spent tons of money on it. And I made a bunch of connections with other people. I learned more things. But it was awesome and it worked great. And that's why she had to build the team, because we built something so successful off of that we had more than we could handle.
Yeah.
And so the next step was, what do we do? And so we grew the business bigger and we grew it bigger. And every year we've grown it bigger. And it isn't big for the sake of getting big. It's big for building something that's self-sustaining and something that we can be proud of and something that eventually we won't have to work till 11 p.m. at night to keep going.
But also to go back to what you were saying, like some brokerages, their goal is just to hire more numbers, mean more sales. That's true to a point, but we are not the brokerage that we just want people there just to be there. I need my agents to be successful. We are an independent operator. So I want the agents that we have to be super successful. And we do not have the structure in our brokerage where we make money per month off our agents. Because of that, we need our agents to actually produce. And if I can make them more successful agents, if they grow and then usually they take our leads pretty regularly and then they tend to graduate off of them. And the reason why is they start to create their own business because now they're successful and they sold so many houses and they're making their connections. So that's what we like to do, is grow those agents to be really, really successful and to become independent if they want.
I think that's important, right? I feel like for me, and I can tell that you're the same way, like I want my people to be successful too, right? Like I don't want to just run with the money. I want to see them grow their dreams, right? Like you were mentioning, you've got your weekends back now, and then you're getting more time, hopefully eventually during the week, maybe you'll get some sleep. I want my people to have that exact same thing. It's actually the way I've like structured stats. Like I wanted people to be able to have a little bit of flexibility and go do things with their kids, and their life didn't just like revolve around work. So
I'm not a robber baron. Like I want everybody to be successful. I want it all to grow together because that's what helps our company. That's what helps our camaraderie. That's what helps our retention. Like those are important to me. Now that I own the brokerage, I want really, really happy agents.
Last night, I'll tell you a story. Tarasa was going through a follow-up boss. And she was doing this not for her, but for her agents. Some of these agents are on her team, but a lot of them aren't. They're brokerage agents. And she was going through their tasks that they hadn't done. And she was tagging them in notes and saying, hey, these people, they're really interested in this. They're showing all these buyer signals or whatever signals that were there. And she was giving them a heads up, trying to coach them, making Loom videos, whatever, to say, look, I want you to be successful. I don't have a lot of skin in the game other than making you better.
Yeah.
And teaching you the things that I've learned, because like you said earlier, there's a lot of failures. Like we've seen when we've lost clients. And when you lose a client, it hurts because you're like, well, I worked hard. But then you can see somewhere down the line, like where you lost them. And we don't want the same thing to happen to you. And one thing that's really interesting about being part of the brokerage is that when Teresa came in, our database got bigger. It got so much bigger that she was able to see sometimes where we had a client enter our database years ago and we lost them and they were picked up by an agent that is now at the brokerage she's at. So we could see the whole path from where we had them, lost them, they picked up by somebody else. And that's really eye-opening. And you might say, well, that was a real shame, but we can learn from that.
Yeah. I love seeing that. It's like, yes, where I lost one. But I like to see that it's like, okay, what can we learn from this situation? It's like, I can see here, we had a span of like 6 months that nobody touched this person. We deserve to lose them because nobody touched them. At the end of the day, real estate is a contact sport. It's the connections you make. You can't just put someone in a database. And this is my most hated thing that I hear people say. It's like, well, call me if you see something you like. It's like, you've lost them. They will never come back. We've not added value. We have dropped them.
Yeah.
And so when I see that, I don't love to see that. But then it tells me it's like, okay, this is how we can do better. And that's why I was kind of auditing some of the agents' client files last night. And it wasn't to be like, oh my gosh, look what you dropped. It's, hey, I want to make sure you saw this. This client looked at this house 5 times in the last 1 week and you haven't talked to them in 11 days. You might want to touch them again.
Yeah.
Sounds like they really like this house. Let's see if we can get them in for an appointment. It's not me spying. It's me trying to be really helpful because I want our agents to be successful.
And sometimes it just takes a little bit of coaching too, because it sounds like you have a lot of tech set up and a lot of tools. So with like an agent, they might not even know where they should be looking or the data they need, right? And that's what's so important about some of these like really well set up systems is that sometimes it tells you who you should be calling, right? When you've got Real Scout and Fault Boss and all these other integrations, you're like, oh, there's this person that's literally on my website. I mean, I was doing that on my stats website this morning because I have all of the Follow Up Boss tracking. And it is like my favorite thing when I like log in and it's like, oh, active right now. Literally, I can see people are on my website, can see what they're looking at. Now, I'm sorry, but if someone is on my website every single day for a week, it's probably someone I should call, right?
So you're a business owner, Trace is a business owner. Like we own these things, we care about them. But that means that we're different than your typical agent. So we care about different things. We're the experts in the processes and the technology, and they want to sell some houses. So that means they're not an expert in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need to be proficient, but it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know, one challenge that we often have is that we'll create training and not agents won't always watch that training, even if that training is like gold to them. We'll tell them exactly what they need to do. It's just that it's not their core concern a lot of times. It's not always in their wheelhouse. And so it's really interesting to see, like, you know, we're talking to you and a lot of the audience of this podcast is probably like team leads and people want to grow. But there's a very different way of looking at the world if you're that person than if you're like an agent who wants to sell a consistent amount of sales and meet their goals. Their goals are just different than our goals.
The original goal of 6 houses, right? that I've turned in.
Husband, and to have coffee with my girlfriends and not feel guilty about it. That was my goal. And that sounds really fun. But that is not what happened.
That's funny because stats was supposed to be like a part-time thing when we moved here. I was like, oh, it's going to be part-time. Just going to work a little bit during the week. 7 years later, like there was 15 employees here. I'm like, what did I do? That's so funny.
Part of it is just that entrepreneurial spirit of just wanting to grow and just loving seeing something that you build, produce, and make better. And it's just, so it's very different because I started as a real estate agent and my like thrill was getting something under contract or getting something listed or that was the thrill. That was my, yes, I love that. That feels so good. But now as the entrepreneur side, my excitement is from the growth of the business and the growing of my agents and making them successful and opening a new branch. And I get the same kind of thrill, but from different things. And I think that's just the entrepreneurial spirit of just wanting to succeed, just wanting it so bad and working so hard for it. And it's just fun. It's just fun.
You've lived those things and you've been in the trenches. So
Yeah.
the really great thing about that is when an agent comes to you and they have big dreams, you can be like, well, guess what? I've been through that. And here's what you need to do that.
Yeah.
It's not just like talk. You literally can tell them exactly. It's not fun always. Like it's
No.
hard. When someone wants to be successful, it's not going to be easy. but it's doable if you
Yep.
follow the path. And it's funny because all businesses are like this. And we're seeing it every day now. Like when you build a business, a lot of businesses look like the same shape. I was telling the story about Teresa going to get her car detailed, and her car can get kind of messy. I'm not going to go into details.
Same girl. Same.
For us. So her business partner said, look, you need to get your car detailed like on a consistent basis. And he bought her car detailing for a Christmas gift.
It was a nice.
It was a really nice gift. She really needed it. They went out to lunch the other day and he's like, why haven't you used my detailing yet? And she's like, I'll do it. She called up the car detailer guy, got an appointment in, got it detailed. It's beautiful. Car looks like brand new. I can't even believe you can make a car look that nice. Guy's awesome. However, she walks in there and she says, hey, why don't you have a system where like every 6 months you just send me an email and say, hey, it's time to get your car detailed. And he's like, well, I'm trying to work on these automations with Go High Level and all that. And our years like pick up because we're like, well, that's the same kind of stuff I hear from in real estate. And it's interesting that in every industry, they have like their own knowledge base. They have their own systems, but they all look the same kind of shape. And so now every time we go into a business, we talk to someone new, we're always like thinking about, wow, if I had this kind of business, here's what I would do. And
Yeah.
it's been super interesting to see that.
I do that all the time with like various vendors, and I'm like, you could just do these 3 little things. And I'm like, just shut up, Jennifer. Just shut up. Don't even say a word. Don't even say a word. Like,
It's like the serial entrepreneur. It's like, oh, can I help?
yeah. Like, have you thought of this or like structuring your business like that? They're like, oh, I'm like, oh man, that's it all the time.
But I think that's great. I'll say this, and I know probably sounds a little weird, but I'm a greedy person. I'll fully admit it. I'm a greedy person. I want more business. I want more brokerages. I want more connections. I want more sales. I want more. But I want more for a good reason because I want to spread it around. I'm a greedy person. Like I want more sales and more business and more brokerages and more agents, and I want more. I know that about myself. I love to grow. And something that is just important about being an entrepreneur is the fact that we give back. And I think that you have that too, and our industry sees that from really great people, is that we want to gain all this because we want to give some of it back. Like this podcast is giving back and making our community better. And I think that that's just so, so important. So I like to take a lot, but I also like to give a lot back. And I think that balances out the greediness.
Well, and I think a lot of my takeaway from listening to you guys talk is that you are successful because you worked so hard and educating yourself on all of these things. So then in turn, you can build these systems to make other agents' life better. You can bring agents on and you can help them skip the first 10 steps, right? Like all of those things are so important. And my biggest takeaway from listening to his talk, that like, hey, I'm going to try this thing and I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to join every single group. I'm going to read. I'm going to spend all my extra time doing it, right? It didn't just come to you magically. So all that is just so important when you're listening to this. There's not like a magic potion. There is hard work, education, so much that goes into it, but you can build whatever you want.
Teresa consumes business books.
I
Like,
do.
She really does. And so when I
I
told you
like-
about reading, she does it too.
Yeah, I read like 4 business books a month. I love to read. I love to learn. I want to make myself better so I can make the people around me better.
Yeah.
I think that that's very important to educate yourself and to give back to our community and be able to share. And I know I come off as a very bubbly, happy person, and I am. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of strife that goes along with being a business owner and growing, and there's a lot of pain and discomfort. And that's not bad. You need some of those levels of discomfort. You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone to grow.
Yeah.
When I come off so bubbly and happy, I am, but it's because I've absolutely had those freak out moments where I cried into a pillow, or I yelled at somebody over the phone, or I just sat and I ate a tub of Nutella on my couch and Netflixed for like 2 hours because I needed it. And that's okay. It's all right, because we hold ourselves to a really high standard all the time of pushing, pushing, pushing. And it's okay to feel like so tired you can't do anything else. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable. And it's okay to fail. You learn a lot from failure. And I failed a lot. And I'm going to keep failing. I'm probably going to fail another 7 times today. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But the fact is that I get up and keep doing it. That's the important part.
Mm-hmm. We all do. All entrepreneurs have those days, right? I think that's part of how we get so hooked is you've got these like ups and downs and you're like, what is going on? I'm going to pivot a little bit because I really want to get to this. I'm going to ask both of you guys, what are your superpowers?
I'm going to go first.
Okay. So my superpower is interesting. It's not super by a lot of people's definition. I am an engineer in a world of salespeople. And so that's super because my perspective is just different.
Mm-hmm.
And if I learned anything about this, as a real estate business, or my own career as an engineer, it's that there is truth everywhere. Everyone has their own truth. Like every business, whether you're a real estate agent, you're a lawyer, you own a car detailing business, whatever, they've all learned their own stuff and they never talk to each other. And if you can get those other people talking or like dig into what they're doing, you can learn things that are unknowable for that community. And so what I bring to the table are things that are unknowable in real estate because real estate agents aren't engineers. And so anytime that data analysis needs to get done, Teresa throws over the table. She's like, I need you to analyze this. And that's important because I'm an engineer, I help refer a bunch of engineers to her business. And engineers are really picky. Like they want to know the data. They want that stuff to be very clearly provided to them in a way that like it's hard for someone who's a salesperson to do who's not trained in it. So the funny secret of things are when we're working with engineers, I'm feeding her the numbers because I know what they want. But it really helps when in our business because anytime Teresa says, I need this, I wish I had this, it's usually like a hold my beer situation. Hold my beer, I sit down on the couch on a Saturday afternoon and I code up something
Codes all day.
and I made it.
He makes it for me.
And I do that
Awesome.
all the time. So that's something that most people can't do. Most people are like, well, I wish I could do this thing. They got to go hire some outside company and it's expensive, takes time. Generally speaking, I just do it. She's like, well, I hate this. And I say, okay. I do it again. She's like, this is a little bit better. And then like a couple iterations later, which is a couple hours later, she's like, this is pretty cool. And so my superpower is being able to take something that someone else in a different industry needs and make it a reality. And it's been really cool to do that. So a lot of this, it goes like, it's kind of thankless in a way because a lot of our agents, not from her, but a lot of our agents, a lot of the people who work with us don't understand. They just assume that like these things that we do are part of the system.
Mm.
There's no system. I built all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I will continue to do it. So it's really awesome and we're really proud of it. But a lot of people don't really know that it's literally the work of me, my superpower.
Sitting there on Saturday with his beer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's a lot of these things. I have a lot of these stories where like I built some really crazy thing and I've showed someone about it and they've been like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, I just did it on a Saturday afternoon. And they're like shocked. And they said, how did you build something like that on a Saturday afternoon? And I tell them, I'm like, look, like, no offense. This is my job. I've been doing it for decades now. Like I'm awesome at it because that's what I do. And it's the same way that when I see a salesperson like knock out a really awesome sale or like talk a certain way to make someone feel comfortable, I'm astounded because that is not what I'm good at. I just can't do it. Maybe Trace will tell a story, I'll tell a story, but almost anytime we have to talk to the agents and I'm describing some kind of technical thing I built, they look at me and their eyes are glassed over. They're like, what the heck? And then from my perspective, Teresa will tell them the exact same thing. And they're all like, oh yeah, that's great. And the reality is we didn't say the exact same thing. I heard like in my mind, I said what she said, but I didn't say that.
Different way.
No. She said it the way that they needed to hear it.
Yeah.
And I said it the like overly technical and complicated way.
Well, it's the same way of like you being able to help her close the sale on engineers, right? Because you understand how they want to be communicated with, right? You understand the way that their brain is working or how they're thinking about the transaction. It's just different. Tarasa, let's hear your superpower.
My superpower is I was trained as a clinical counselor. So my superpower is building very deep relationships very quickly. And that helps me to gain the trust of my clients and my agents. So this happens to me all the time. We honestly do call it my superpower is that wherever I am, someone will just tell me something super personal as a stranger. Like it happens all the time. Like for example, one of my favorite ones was I think I was looking at something in a store or I was unloading my cart or something. And I didn't know this person at all, never met them. She's like, you know what? I was just driving up here and I pulled next to a really cute convertible and the woman in the passenger seat had gray hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's rocking that gray hair. And then that person turned their head and they were a golden doodle. She's like, and I felt so bad about myself. I was like, because she's like, because I have gray hair. I was like, oh my gosh. And we started talking about golden doodles and how our hair looked great. And it just random things like that. Like, people just feel really comfortable telling me things. And because of that, we can make deep relationships really fast. In fact, several of my clients, I am the godmother of their children. I never met them before they bought and sold a house with me.
Yeah, it is so funny.
We're real friends. Like,
And we're
it's
we're
not
real
big.
friends now. Yeah.
We spend time with them and we like them, but we've made a lot of friendships.
Yeah. Friendships are important.
You know,
Really,
and I think,
like,
especially the industry you're in, for you to want to do your job, I almost feel like it's necessary that you're becoming friends or really liking the people that you're spending time showing houses and all that stuff to, right? Because then what would be the fun of helping them sell houses if you aren't attached to their kids or building relationships with these people?
I mean, I tell everybody that our goal as real estate agents is to build a connection with people. We need to know the motivation of why someone is buying or selling. We need to get really, really close to them to understand what their motivations are, because I can't sell them anything. I can't lead them down a path that I don't know where they're going. So I really need to know why they're moving, because nobody picks up the phone one day and says, you know what, I just decided I'm going to move because it's super fun. Like, nobody does that. So why are you moving? What don't you have? What can we find you? What are you looking for? What do your dream holidays look like? Who spends time in your family? What are your hobbies? That's one of my favorite ones to ask people that are buying new homes is, what are your hobbies? People love their hobbies. They love their pets. They love, for example, you have some amazing pets, right? Like, your pets are part of your family. If I was selling you a house and I didn't know about your awesome menagerie at home, how could I find you a great house to live in?
Yeah.
It's part of who you are. I need to know that so I can help you get to the next place that you're supposed to be.
Our pets are like defining factor of houses. Like, even when we lived in California, I mean, obviously I'm a realtor, so I was like searching around trying to find like the exact place that we could live near LA but have goats. Like, that was like, but if you didn't know that as a realtor, you'd be sending me like track homes.
And from your perspective, you would be like, this realtor either A, doesn't care, or B, hasn't listened, or I'm just another person that they just happen to call. Like, you aren't special to that person. It's important that you know the motivation behind anything, because to guide anybody anywhere, you need to know what they need and how they're going to get there.
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been amazing. There's so many nuggets in here, whether you're an entrepreneur or your significant other, or maybe we end up with some engineers listening in. Who knows? If anyone wants to get in contact with you, maybe they're interested in your brokerage, they want to send you referrals, or maybe they just want to follow you for database or, tech building advice, where should we send them?
Well, if you just search my first name, I outrank the flower that is also my name. So my name is Tarasa, Tarasa. And pretty much if you Google Tarasa, you will find me.
Tarasa.com is
And
my first
Tarasa.com.
name is a web address, so
Easy.
she's really easy to find.
But up.
Tarasa.com for the website. Tarasa@tarasa.com is my email. I think on Instagram it's Tarasa.
Twist H probably. She's easy to find.
I'm easy to find.
And if you find her, you can find me.
Nice.
I'm not out there like she is. So if you want to find me, you got to find her.
And my husband too. Every time I post and like tag my husband, I can see that people like click on his name to be like, who's this person she's tagging in here? Because he doesn't like post or do anything online. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining on the podcast today, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.